You guys can see it, but I have my hand or my chin on my hands, um, both my hands actually, and sort of like with my fingertips on my cheeks, kind of like a love struck schoolgirl. Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, boys and girls. How are we all doing today? Well, as I said, right, like you guys were being reasonable, so it's difficult for me to say no um when everyone asks so nicely. So for future reference, and for a public school reference, I wasn't planning on streaming today. I was actually going to use the time to start on one of my other projects that I've always wanted to start on, but that I, never had the time to. But they, yeah, well, I don't want to say that they convinced me otherwise, but they made a appeal to my, I don't want to say humanity because obviously I don't have any humanity. They made an appeal to my kindness, and I decided, yeah, you know what, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, there will always be other times when I can start my projects, so sure, why not? YOLO, right? Yeah, so today we're gonna do some mild chatting, talk about life, the universe. If you have questions for me, if I have actually I'm not going to ask you lot questions because you lot tend to not give me any interesting answers. Oh yes, I am having coffee. Some of you will be able to see that I have coffee. Yeah. And some of you will not. No. Questions? No, 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 no. The limitations of the broadcasts remain the same, right? So let's not forget that. So when you ask questions, ask, in such a way that I can actually answer, and in such a way that I won't have to ban you and your family for life. Wink. we've had um we've had one of our administrators is threatening to ban people for being for towing the line and testing the limitations of our NDAs. And while I don't necessarily absolutely agree with her, uh, I feel like she makes a cogent point. Administrator threatening to ban some of you for life. And what I find most amusing is that some of you are actually cowed by that and consider it a disgrace to be banned from our community. I think it's rather cute, right? Well, I mean, in part, it's more just like I find that to be an interesting development because I'm not much of an anthropologist, obviously, and I think for good reason, right? Like I don't actually want to be an anthropologist, but the evolution of our community is actually one of those very interesting anthropological questions, and if I were more inclined to actually study it, I might actually have been able to collect enough information to write a paper on the formation of communities, on the formation of, um, and I call them, I guess, sort of mimetic inside jokes. I guess is the better way of saying it. I was going to say like mimetic materials from within the community, but that's obviously not exactly what I mean. Well, that's where the word meme comes from, right? So, well, yeah, because I mean, we don't have all of the old logs. We have some of them, and I wouldn't subject a researcher to reading your conversations, right? Like, I can barely stand reading your conversations. I can't ask other people to do so, and so yeah, like from a but from my sort of hobbyist perspective, I do see a lot of similarities between the way that our community developed and how civilization sort of developed, right? Like, um, I'm not obviously civilization didn't start as a single village, but for all intents and purposes, we can consider that the unit, the community unit, for a long time was the individual village and the traveling people that traveled between the village. It sort of evolved out of tribalism, right? So, um, as the unit village developed and developed and developed, and cities started happening where successful villages would invite more people to join, and that network effect would then promote the growth of civilizational centers of population centers at the expense of surrounding villages, and so therefore quickly, the cities would develop. And we see kind of that similar thing with our own community, right? Like, in the beginning it was what, like 20, 25 of us, and then as we grew and grew and grew, like, I had to hire more administrators. Obviously, we or one of our early administrators has passed on, and you know you guys loved her, and she was fantastic, and it's a shame. I didn't want to go there. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's take a moment to remember. For those of you who don't know her, I'll after this public broadcast, I'll give a private eulogy to her, because she was a wonderful part of our community. Thanking one of our administrators who has passed away. She was she really was an early part of our community and a great part of our community, and she really made our lives better. I know that to be true, right? And she actually gave us a whole bunch of ideas that we've started with that we're still doing now. And she was sick for a long time, and it was sad. Yeah. Uh Sorry. Moving on. Right, we were talking about our community being a little village and then growing into cities, and as more population happens to join our population center, you could see the slow subdivisions, right? Like, it's interesting, but if you think about it, right, like, how many people do we really engage with on a daily basis, like for normal people, for the average person, right? The average person perhaps engages average person social circle. The average person has a social circle of maybe what, 10, 25 people, because we as humans, it's really really difficult for us to maintain more than we do on a daily basis, right? And that's not to say, like, our CRMs, right? Like for example, my Rolodex is what, like 5,000, 6,000 names long by this time. But I don't engage with those people on a daily basis. I engage with a lot of you on a daily basis because I have to, and you pay me to. But um, for the average person, it is what? It is 10, 25 people. And so when we started as a small village, we started as 10, 25 people. We started as a tribe. And as we grew bigger and bigger, and bigger, and we had to hire more help, well, I had to hire more help. first on a part-time basis, now on a full-time basis. It is becoming more and more interestingly like a city, right? And we see our cliques forming, we see our lobbies forming, we see you lot using your points for as currency to trade services, to trade goods, and that is it's very much a reflection of how human society started. Obviously, we did this on a faster scale because we didn't have to invent writing at the same time, right? But uh, altogether, I think it's been a fantastic experiment, and I only wish I had the necessary understanding, or not understanding. I had the necessary realization early on to actually document this, or to hire someone much earlier to document this, because then we might have been able to. Actually, we have anthropologists, don't we? No, we might. Let me just quickly scroll through our names to see. No, my my face died. Give me 1 second. My face died in the worst possible position. But yeah, if we had no, I don't think we have anthropologists. But if we did, it would have been interesting to rope some of them in to. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. There we go. To rope some of them into to actually look at the how this works, right? And yeah. Um, I mean, if you guys know you guys know the way to introduce people to. Well, I mean, you can't really introduce them. You know what I mean. Yeah. It takes a long time for new people to be granted access to the server. We still have a gigantic wait list, and so until if you guys know somebody and you want to talk to me about it ahead of time, that's perfectly reasonable. I think we could use some professional expertise from that area of the world. I am not sure I want to go above 2,000 people because that is where we're at now. Um, I feel like if we go too much above that, it becomes completely uncontrollable for me, right? Like right now we have we have about 5 full-time staff aside from me, and that's I prefer to keep it that way unless we have to change, but that's that's sort of a different issue, right? Well, I mean, if you thought that that this was already chaotic, can you imagine if I then continue to expand? If we have like 2,500, 30, 3,000, 5,000 people there, I say no. That's we are barely maintaining the NDA today, even as we speak, right? Because you lot keep running into all sorts of annoying issues where you accidentally and I mean, even at this rate, right? At this rate, one of our administrators is almost full time now on damage control, and that's annoying. I don't want that, right? Like, if it were at all possible, I would have liked to keep the community at half our current size. But obviously, I can't just kick some of you out. So well, we shall see. um, No. Well, I mean, there are very good reasons why we sign NDAs, and there are very good reasons why you guys feel like the NDAs are really, really necessary, and they're very helpful, not just for you lot, but also for myself, right? And I prefer not having my NDAs broken. I think. No, I must insist. Do not break the NDAs. Okay? Are we clear on that? Anyway, let's do a mild yearly recap since that was demanded. recap. So, let's see. What did we do this year? We did a whole bunch of things. I kept screaming about inflation. I kept screaming about the necessity for hard interest rate rises. Not that any of you listened to me. We have people that could have influenced that decision. We do. I know. I'm looking at them right now. I see one of them just typed something really ridiculous into the chat. Can you imagine if people found out that he wrote that in our chat? Oof. The FOMC would just like implode. Well, no, it wouldn't. But like it would be mildly embarrassing and quite amusing. But you know, that's why we have the NDAs. Anyway, we what else happened this year? The Russian invasion of Ukraine, sustained inflation. I would say that yes, this year has been kind of crappy. Yes, next year will be probably more crappy. But we have made some good effort this year, right? Like both as a community and as a world. COP27 was much bigger success than I imagined, which is great. COP15 in Montreal is interesting. I mean, I think we made a little bit of progress as a species. Um, I wasn't going to mention that, but yeah. I mean, okay, that's not true. If we take a step back and we look at the Bank of Japan's meeting minutes, it was very clear that they were simply giving themselves headroom for extra stimulus. And in fact, if you look at anyway, and if we were to look at the um the latest Japanese data, we can see that actually like Japanese growth, even with sort of this quote unquote super high 2% inflation for Japan, or 3 point, what was it, 3.5, 3.7, whatever, at that inflation rate, it uh like it was still weak, and so therefore there is almost no chance that the BOJ would actually do a huge pivot there. And so, what can we do? Anyway, what else happened this year? Oh yes, I got a, what is this, quasi three-dimensional face. That was exciting. That the community spent a lot of money to get this. you know, if you lot spend as much effort on trying to get me to do embarrassing things as you did on your work, I think our society would be in a much better place. I'm just gonna put that out there. I almost 100% believe that. That isn't how it works, and you know it. Anyway, um, let's see what else. What else? Well, I mean, no, 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 no. Okay, okay, guys, stop. No more talking about my face. Don't talk about what else did we do? We had a whole bunch of karaoke segments that were all unfortunately private, which is kind of a shame because some of those songs were fantastic. I particularly like the fact that that our year one class 3 students uh, made a sort of tribute version of my ending song. That's fantastic. But those kids have their own issues to deal with, right? Anyway, predictions for 2023. You mean world predictions? I assume, right? Yeah. Okay. World predictions. World predictions. Predictions. Three. Let's see. Let's see. Hmm. Well, I mean, okay. I am I am in the camp of desperately hopeful for soft landing. But that is exactly it. Exactly right. Like desperately hoping for is my way of saying I'm not convinced we will have a soft land. And the unfortunate aspect of that is I'm not even sure if the FOMC really has the ability to engineer a soft landing. Right? Like we are going into a cold spell. We are going into, well, I mean, Europe is kind of warm again now, but we are going into a year of increased volatility in energy, right? I mean, oh, right. One thing about year in review, my funds, right? I forgot about that. Let me put that in. My general VC fund is down 15%. No, what is it? 12%? Yeah, 12%. Which is amazing for 2022. Let's be honest. My general fund is up 37%, which is, that is a whole other issue. So we're good. Um, oh right, to 2023. I'm not sure, right? Because that's the thing about volatility. Like I think 2023 will be a year of volatility between China's now, I don't know, sea of swimming Omicron and and our boy Vladimir Putin's offensives. And one thing that I think is perhaps not quite as like an attention hasn't really been paid to that is AMLO in Mexico, right? And what happens in Mexico can directly affect what happens in America, and it can directly affect the political sphere of America. And so, depending on how my boy AMLO is going to do, uh, what was his name? Manuel Lopez Obrador. I can't remember what the A stands for. Fine, it's not important. Um, um, so like, I don't. I think 2023 will be a volatility play. Think I think if the Fed can engineer a soft landing, we have hit bottom equities. I wouldn't, you know, bet the farm on it. I certainly, I mean, we have, or I have, is or I say fun. It's just really just a one bloke doing, one partner doing his work, who, like he wants to run a high growth thing. And so I mean equities were pretty good in America, right? Like especially energy. And so can energy go higher? I'm mildly skeptical on that. We can probably see a bunch of volatility in it. Let's see, housing prices now. I mean, the entire housing sector right now in the U.S., actually most of the world, is completely frozen, right? Both because of the cold and because of super high interest rates. And so, oh yes, Britain, we're going to see a whole bunch of mortgages getting refinanced early next year, and that is going to be killer for those people, right? Because they're going from an era of basically zero interest rate to an era of, where's the BOE now? I can't even remember. Let me find out. BOE interest rate. The BOE is sitting at 3.5%, right? So if the BOE is sitting at 3.5, and these people have to finance, and they're going from what? They're going from 0 to 3.5. That is huge, right? Because those housing prices that came from those earlier finances have been inflated by 0% interest rates. And so when when you like people tend to borrow at the top of their abilities, even though I continuously advise people not to. Oh, do I have to take this? Hold on, I do have to take this. 1 second. Anyway, what was I saying? Housing prices, right? When the BOE has to when people have to refinance, England is going to be in some fun shit, right? Like, I don't envy Rishi, right? Like, you guys will remember when Liz crashed and burned, I was heavily in the camp of Penny should not run. Right? I was heavily in the camp of Penny should trade her acquiescence for something like leader of the house, where she can make a little bit more better name for herself, and that's entirely because Liz completely destroyed the British system. And so, yeah, well, we're gonna see some fun, or fun. We're gonna see a wreckage next year. Uh, Rishi, so that is actually a good question. I think Rishi is kind of up for the job, or rather, you need someone like the combination of Sunak and Hunt to be as boring as possible, to make government as boring as possible, because it's really bad when government is exciting, right? Like let me note that down. It really is 27. It's really bad if government is exciting. It genuinely is. When government is exciting, then in this modern era, where religion where politics is religion, an exciting government breeds extremism, right? And so we saw that with Brexit. So if we stick strictly to the UK, we saw that with Brexit. We saw that with sort of David Cameron retiring to put it to Theresa, and then Theresa being completely unable to control things. And the only reason the Conservatives were able to hang on to power was because, on the other side, politics became religion, which led to extremism, which led to Jeremy Corbyn, right? And so Jeremy Corbyn was such a big blessing to the Conservative Party. It's just anyway, that's the whole other issue. But the point really is, when politics is exciting like that. Well, I mean, we kind of have politics within the community already, right? Like the big umbrella corporations that we have now, like the video game corporation. We have some of the lobbies, right? Like these big corporations are, if you go in and you actually look at the structure, you look at the way that they do things, they are quite political, right? And I mean, it does reflect how we tend to view board seats, how we tend to view corporate governance, and all of that. All of it is quite political to begin with. And it's how do I explain this? Corporate politics is different from political religions, right? And yes, you'll have flared tempers in corporations, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, most of you aren't playing with your own money on a board, so it matters less compared to compared to the religion, the politics of the country. And exactly that's it, right? Like when you have the bitterest corporate feuds are the ones between the founders, between shareholders, right? Between different groups of actual shareholders. Like the actual management politics is much less intense, much less heated than where people have their own interests at stake, or the interests of something much greater at stake, right? And for a corporation, those who have interest for the entire corporation are obviously the shareholders, not so much the managers. And for a country, obviously, if you live in that country and you're a voter. So I do have a lot to say. Yes, unfortunately, we are at the 30-minute mark. So I will go for today because I do have another meeting in 5 minutes or 7 minutes. Well, we are still doing it tomorrow, and we're probably gonna do it on Saturday, and celebrate the New Year. Um, that's fine. That's fine. Mm. That's a good question. So one of our viewers, ending in 2C, just asked whether we can do a countdown. It doesn't quite work well for our community because obviously, like our community is made up in such a way that 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 we have both East Asia, and then we have Europe, and then we have East and West Coast North America. It's difficult to find a time when the countdown is properly going to happen. Um, I might make a generic count. No, that's not good. No, no. Let me think about that. But I might just choose to sort of like spend like we'll create ad hoc communities within their Discord, or ad hoc channels on Discord to celebrate the New Year at different time zones, and I'll have one of our administrators manage that. And then I'll join in. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, it'll be fun. We'll probably just do it as sort of like a voice chat, group voice chat thing. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just and then you guys can scream, like I mean, okay, honestly, you should spend New Year's with your families. You shouldn't spend Why are you asking me to count down you? Hold on, let me type this down. What time is it? 33. Why are you asking me, Muses, to count down New Year's with you when you have families? It's true. It's true. Some of you have your entire family in the server. I can't deny that. That is true. But like join with your friends that aren't on the server. Have a social life. Don't just listen to Muses. Anyway, we are done for today. I really do have to go because I think my meeting is here. So we will talk tomorrow, when we will be doing helicopters and Friday drinks and all of that. Thank you very much for watching. In conclusion, please download Firefox, please don't do Chrome, and I shall see all of you tomorrow. And let's wink with our left eye today. I'm pointing at my left eye. Most of you can't see it, but that's okay. 3, 2, 1, wink.